Hello, Dr. Blain. How lovely to see you.
Great to see you as well.
I'm looking forward to talking just a bit today to introduce you to our many ACTFL members who are looking forward to your keynote address on Saturday of our convention in Boston, 10 a.m. That's going to be an interesting time. But I'd like to introduce you to our members just a little bit beforehand so that they know who they're coming to hear talk. So let's talk about you for just a little bit. You were born in the Caribbean. But you grew up in Brooklyn. So what languages did you speak at home and how did that impact you?
Well, I spoke English at home, but what's interesting is that I spoke what can best be described as patois, which is to say that although it was English, there were certainly other languages that influenced our expression. So for example, French was one important influence. And as you noted, I grew up in Brooklyn, which of course is such a diverse community. And so even though I spoke English, what was great about growing up in Brooklyn is that I encountered people from all over the world. And in fact, many of my classmates were bilingual. And so I had an opportunity to really get to know, to mingle with others who spoke Spanish, for example, others who also spoke French.
So did you study languages in school? Did you take a language in junior high, high school, college?
I did. So in junior high, initially I started studying French, and I decided to change from French to Spanish. And I think largely because of the influences of my classmates. I was so interested in learning the language. I wanted to become fluent. I dreamt of traveling to Spain one day. And so I began to study Spanish in junior high and continued to study Spanish all the way through graduate school. In fact, in graduate school, I traveled to Buenos Aires where I studied Spanish one summer.
Excellent, excellent. So languages has been an important part of your life. And did you, with your patois, when you initially started school in the US and in junior high, was your English an issue for you in school?
It was because I think one of the challenges for me was not only using words that many of my classmates did not understand, but I was also speaking with an accent coming from the Caribbean. And it took a while, I think, for me to, one, be comfortable with expressing myself, but also it took some time for my classmates to truly get to understand me. So those first few weeks and months were especially difficult. I'm grateful that with the support of teachers and others, I was able to succeed in junior high onward.
Well, you've succeeded all along the way. You are a first generation college grad in your family, correct? So
Correct.
was there a pivotal teacher along the way, perhaps?
There were so many. In fact, one of the professors who I always talk about is a professor by the name of Michael West. And I often talk about him because he is really the person who encouraged me to pursue a PhD, encouraged me to go to grad school. I had no plans to become a historian when I went to college. At the time, I wanted to become an attorney, but I fell in love with history, and it was really wonderful to have professors supporting me, and Michael West in particular just encouraged me to apply to grad school, and I'm glad I listened.
Hmm. So world language teachers teach culture as well as language, and multiculturalism is at the very heart and soul of what you do. So is language or multilingualism central in any way to your work?
It is. One of the core themes of my work is what we talk about as Black internationalism, which is really just a way of emphasizing the global dimensions of the Black freedom struggle. It's a way of emphasizing the networks and transnational collaborations that people form throughout history, but also in the present. And what is key when you study this history is you have to pay attention not only to culture, but to language, because oftentimes it can be a barrier when people want to collaborate politically, socially. It can be a barrier, but it can also be an avenue when people are able to translate. For example, there are so many examples of Black newspapers published in English and Spanish and French, and those became pivotal ways for activists all over the globe to communicate with each other, to get to understand each other, and to work together.
Thank you. And finally, it's a loaded question, but I need to ask it. What is your passion?
I'm passionate about history, especially Black history, not only in the US context, but globally. I'm excited to do the research that I do. I love working with students. I certainly do my best to teach them, but I learn so much from them in return. And so I really would not change one thing. I love being a professor and a researcher.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's delightful to get to know you. We will know you further during your keynote address and following that in Boston this November. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to it. Take care.
You too.